It is often thought that Christianity and the occult are polar opposites, and even though some members of the occult oppose the Bible's moral and philosophical tenets, few in the occult will argue with the Bible's storyline. Not only will those in the occult quote from the Bible freely, but the occult and Christianity share common symbolism. From Genesis' Tree of Life to Revelation's Mark of the Beast, these two belief systems draw from a common tradition of allegory. Because Christianity and the occult share a symbolic tradition, this documentary will examine biblical symbols from the perspective of the occult. In the Bible's book of Genesis, God places Adam and Eve in the midst of the Garden of Eden. Eden, according to the Bible, was a paradise where illness and suffering were unheard of. As the story goes, this paradisical land of Eden had within its borders at least two trees. One tree was called the Tree of Life, and the other tree was called the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil. It is said that God told Adam and Eve that he permitted the eating of the fruit which grew from the Tree of Life, but the fruit which grew from the other tree, the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil, he did not permit the eating of. He further warned that if the forbidden fruit was eaten, that the guilty party would quote-unquote surely die.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die.
The two tenants of the garden, Adam and Eve, did not heed this edict for too long. Into the garden crept a serpent who assured Eve that she was indeed free to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that she would not die, and that after eating the fruit, her eyes would be opened, and she would be remade as the gods, knowing good and evil.
And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons.
According to the tale, the serpent told Eve the truth that her eyes would be opened by the forbidden fruit, but lied when he claimed that the fruit wouldn't kill her. After their disobedience, both Adam and his wife would be expelled from paradise and forced to live a life of toil and suffering east of the garden. Christians have long speculated the true meaning of this story, and some Christians were content in believing that the fruit and the story as a whole were literal. Even though modern Christians continue to speculate this story's meaning with less rigid interpretations, the occult perspective remains largely ignored. The Kabbalah, which is a set of ancient Hebrew texts, describe a framework of the universe which also contain two trees. The first of these trees is the Tree of Life, and the second tree is called the Qliphoth. According to Kabbalistic lore, the universe is composed of a series of dimensions, each called Sephirah, where energy that flows from the highest heaven slowly solidifies as it reaches each node until it arrives in the material world as matter. The roadmap for this descending energy is called the Tree of Life. Beginning at Kether, the highest knowable dimension, a pure and primal form of energy is given shape and polarity as it descends until finally reaching the physical world, called Malkuth. Malkuth, at the very bottom of the Tree of Life, is the material universe where humanity's day-to-day experiences take place. According to the Kabbalah, however, the whole of human experience is not limited to the material world, but also include the higher, more heavenly realms. It is said that the human physical body is nothing more than a mechanical perceiver for the higher and true selves. Between man and his true self, often called higher self or true will, lies two veils, and these two veils divide the consciousness of man into essentially two parts, his higher self and his lower self. The lower self represents humanity's primal and animal drives. It is here where man's ego and lusts can be found. Above the lower self can be found the higher self, and this higher self, which is often called one's guardian angel, represents man's divine nature. The whole situation can be likened to a video game. When playing a video game, two copies of oneself are brought into existence. The first copy is the true you, your true self, the one sitting in a chair with controller in hand. The second copy, your lower self, often called your lower will or ego, is the one inside the video game, jumping, shooting, and ducking inside the 3D computer-generated world. The video game version of yourself is nothing more than a perceiver for your true self, whose flesh cannot exist inside the electronic confines of a computer game. There is, however, another tree in the Kabbalistic garden, the Qliphoth. The Qliphoth, sometimes called the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil by modern occultists, is an underworld of demons. The Qliphoth